We don't need to live with regrets. We can design a different future for us. Our life matters, the same that our professional career matters. There's a balance in between what I do in different stages and phases and seasons of life. But to have a space for ourselves, it's really very important.
This is A Joyful Rebellion, the podcast that explores that moment you realize the life and success you worked so hard to create didn't come with all the fulfillment you thought it would. I'm your host, James Walters, and I want you to be the author of your own story. Each week, I connect with people who inspire bold answers to the question, what do I do now to create a life I love? If you're ready to start answering that question for yourself, you're in the right place. So let's start a joyful rebellion. My guest today is Hilda Fainsod, who's spent the past 2 decades as a top executive coach. She has 9 international coaching certifications and thousands of hours working with senior leaders from different industries. Hilda's written a new book called Power Up, the executive roadmap to transforming life and business. We talk about self-sabotage, balancing work with the rest of our life, and toward the end, we identify the one thing that can allow us to create the best possible life for ourselves and those we care about. So get yourself a fresh cup of coffee as I jump into this conversation with both feet. Hilda, welcome to A Joyful Rebellion. This podcast is all about so many of the things that you talk about and work with your clients. And you have a new book that just came out last month. It is called Power Up, the executive roadmap to transforming life and business. It sounds like in your last 2 decades working with executives and working with people to help boost their performance and enhance their lives, you've learned a lot of things along the way that you wanted to write down in the book. So tell me a little bit about the journey from starting to work with those first executive clients, help them optimize their performance, the things you learned along the way, and then you decided last year to write a book about it. What was that journey like?
It is an amazing journey, and it's a learning journey. I do have 10 different coaching certifications. That is why it's a learning process. Because I began 20 years ago, and I had 1 certification at that time, and 1 is not enough because we are so different. So I needed to learn a lot, to work with myself, to try new approaches, to find out what is best for my clients, and how to support their journey, how to remove their barrier. What is the best way to support them to achieve results? And what balance look like for my clients? Because they are focused on results, they are driven to achieve goals, and they forget in the journey the balance. So in the last 2 years, maybe, I find new way to make my clients not only aware that they need to balance, also the how to recognize that I'm putting my step to block myself, how to stop your saboteurs, how to identify your own patterns, and how to move from there.
Yeah, and that's what I love to talk about on this show, because there are a lot of people in the world who are doing really well, but they're not living the life they really want to because they're busy living the life they're most used to. If you're talking with someone, let's just say you meet someone on an airplane at the airport, as a trained coach with all the certifications you have, if you're just in a casual conversation, what are some words or phrases that might come up during a conversation from someone that would tip you off to the fact that that person is maybe not performing as well as they could, or maybe not living a life that's totally theirs?
They walk really very fast. They talk so fast that barely you can catch them. They work the flight all the time. They are reading and stressed and taking notes. And it's like there's an inner energy that they cannot deal with that. Or they look drained, overwhelmed, tired, and expressions like, it's too much. I will use this time to sleep in the flight. I need a rest. I need to stop a little bit. Wow, vacations. How does that sound? Balance? No, please don't talk about balance. It's too much. too many, too fast.
Hmm.
Too. So those are a lot of great signals about how we are in those crazy times.
It sounds like you notice and observe a lot of nervous energy with the walking, with the working, with the speech patterns, and they have this energy. Would you relate it to almost an anxious energy, like anxiety?
Yeah, I see them at their offices and the desk looks so full and their agenda is packed and they don't know what else to do to manage by their best their capabilities and their capacity. And I stop them a little bit to reflect on what is success in your current role, what success looks like. And if you think about success and what do you care about, let's talk about what are the 5 top activities you need to do and need to be in your agenda every day to perform successfully. And what you don't need to do. Because if you want results, you need to do some specific topics and you need to let go another one. And you need to keep also what your best capabilities are. For example, I do have a strong discipline. So whatever I do in life, I need to bring that mental resource with me to achieve what I want. So I have conversations about capacity. And capacity is not only agenda. It's success and priorities and energy and agenda.
Okay.
So it's a different approach to understand that your best time and energy needs to be focused in what do you care about. That needs to be aligned with the purpose of your role and the company and yourself and your values.
Right. And you talk a lot about self-sabotage.
Oh, yeah.
You've talked a little bit about some of the external signs like clutter on the desk, maybe a calendar that's just too full and doesn't allow for a person to best use their energy for the focused tasks that need to happen. What are some of the other areas that you look for when it comes to self-sabotage? And I'm really curious to find out what happens when you point this out to someone and say, I don't know if you noticed this, but I've seen you, and you tell them whatever the pattern is you see, or you tell them whatever the external, and then you bring up to them, that's a form of self-sabotage. And then are they shocked? Do they know? What's the typical reaction?
Yeah, the typical reaction is shock. They open big eyes. Yeah, that happens to me often. Another answer is, I wasn't aware of that. Wow, how do you do that? And I said, I'm an outsider. So it's easy to see other patterns. Maybe I don't see my own, but I can see yours. And that's why. So the first place is to look in ourselves, to listen to our inner voice. Because we have this kind of mind that support our changes, initiatives, and we have this kind of mind that blocks changes. So there's an inner judge that says, are you having a conversation with James? What do you know about that? You don't know. And you are not an American. You don't speak English as fluent as American people. So why do you try? You are going to fail. So there's an inner voice that takes care of ourselves in not the best way. Because my voice protects me, but not in the best manner to achieve what I want. So I need to stop this inner voice about myself, about others, about this situation. I need to stop that voice and said, I'm going to be there and I'm going to flow and to enjoy the conversation. So stop.
Yeah.
Not from the stress, anxiety, frustration, madness, craziness, not from that place. So this is a way of listening to you and holding yourself accountable of what do you care about and stopping the voice.
That answered one of the questions I had, because I wanted to get your thoughts on if you thought it's easier for others to see where we might be holding ourselves back much more than we see. I've had that experience, and it sounds like you've had that experience as well, where you could go in and say, oh, well, it's these things that are holding you back, and they would be shocked. And I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to that. Can you give a story of one of the times when you were working with a client and you said, I don't know if you realize this, but I see these things as being your form of self-sabotage, and they were just completely shocked, but were accepting of what you were telling them. Do you have a story like that?
I do have a lot, and I have one of my own stories.
Okay.
I do love to exercise. I didn't 15 years ago, so I solved it, coaching myself and overcoming all the barriers. 4 years ago, I decided to walk the Camino de Santiago in Spain and to spend 6 days walking 130 kilometers.
Oh.
And it was a great challenge. I was so excited. I decided to spend with a friend of mine the journey, and we came out from the hotel the very first day trying to begin the Camino, when suddenly we just walked 2 streets and somebody shout in the street, no, it's not that way. And I stopped suddenly and I said, thank you. If this is not the street, where do I supposed to walk? And he said, it's the other one. So I correct my way with my friend and I stopped for a moment and I said, my friend, we cannot be unaware of the signs. So let's find out the signs. If not, we are going to get lost 130 kilometers. And she began to laugh. So I came into the street to see the sign, and finally I found it. And reflection came to me because I'm a coach, so a lot of reflections I do with myself. And I said, I'm wondering how many times there are so many signs out there and I don't see them. It's so difficult to see our own patterns. Sometimes it happens something to me, and another time, and the third time, and the fourth time, and I began like, first notice what's happening here. No, there were 4 calls and I didn't listen. When I see patterns, I say to my client, for example, I see one of my clients that he came in a bad situation. Shoulders were down, his face was down too, his whole expression, it was like anxiety, sadness, and he was sitting with those shoulders down, talking to me without looking at me, and I said, listen, could you move a little bit of your posture? And he raised his eyes and he was like, what? Yeah, could you raise your shoulders and see me in the eyes and have this conversation in that posture? So he corrected immediately and he said, gosh, I don't feel so bad anymore. Because what is in the body is in the mind. So if the body is showing sadness or contraction, your mind is the same. That is a pattern when we go down in emotions, when we are low in our energy. So with a little correction that he didn't realize, he found out that he could solve part of the problem. From this good posture, you can see life different. That when your shoulders are down and your energy is low and you are sad.
It took you pointing that out to him. It sounds like you didn't necessarily have to explain it to him in that level of detail, but as soon as he tried it, and it's not something he was even aware of, it sounds like in the moment, but as soon as you pointed it out, because it was obvious to you, he tried it and it worked in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
And there are a lot of other patterns, like people rushing into conclusions without taking care of all the stuff around there. And I said, okay, rushing again. What about slowing a little bit? Just for now. And there's kindness in my voice, and I smile sometimes, and I laugh with them. Okay, you are again getting some conclusions. Stay put and find out possible solutions.
Right. And that's the beauty of someone having the awareness to go out and seek someone like you who can help them identify what's holding them back. When someone does come to you and they decide they need the kind of help that you can provide them, is there something common that you find leads up to that point? Is there some commonality in maybe at work they've just hit a certain barrier of success they can't seem to get over? Or is it that things start getting worse for them? What is the usual inspiration for someone to seek out your guidance?
Sometimes it's because they want to think out loud and solve some problems. But I usually talk to them because the opportunity is a big one. So it's not only to solve, it's to grow, to expand, to think differently, to plan something that will help you, to create new possibilities, to have the space to explore yourself or explore how to become a better, stronger you. So it's not only solving, but coaching has this bad fame about fixing and solving. And no, you have a bunch of possibilities outside. So think about new possibilities, products, create something, solve something. Who do you want to become? It's not a new goal. It's about identity, about improving yourself, about being better. And if they are not focusing on that, I focus on them. Because you don't need and want the same when you are in your 20s than when you are in your 40s or 50s or 60s or plus.
Right.
The needs and the motivation and the surrounding and you are not the same. So let's explore, what do you want in your future?
That's interesting. You mentioned throughout the ages of 20s to 40s to 60s. Do you find that people in different age ranges get in their own way the same throughout life? Or maybe they're a procrastinator in their 20s and they're a procrastinator in their 60s. Or does it kind of shift? Or is it pretty much until you help them break the cycle?
It gets worse. I don't
no.
want to worry you, but it gets worse if you don't work on it.
I'm terrified now.
No, of course, because you are in conversations with others and you find some solutions. And I was listening to some of the chapters in your podcast, and you have some idea about your superpowers and all that. So if you put things into practice, you are becoming better. If not, when you procrastinate at your 20s, at your 60s is going to be almost the same or worse.
Okay. That's good perspective because, like you said, it's really important to work on yourself. But unless you know what to work on, it's hard to improve. If you don't get someone like yourself to reflect back to you what the issues could be and really take that in, be open to it, then you're just going to stay stuck in the same place and repeating the same life over and over. And I'd love to talk and get your thoughts on balance. I've worked with a coach or two, not necessarily executive coach, but more personal growth coach. The coaches I talk to, some like the word balance and the concept of it. Some don't like the concept of balance because they feel like it creates even more pressure for people to make life perfect and balanced. And a lot of times that's not realistic. So what are your thoughts on balance when it comes to being highly productive and successful in your work life, your career, in the years that you need to be, then also happy and fulfilled in your personal life?
When I think about performance and productivity results, goals and outcomes, I love them. I do love them because I live that way. But also I do have a life and I need to know how to stop to enjoy the other part of my life. And that's balance, to give me the space to enjoy, to walk, to go outside, to have conversations, to be in family, to be at home, to see a Netflix show, to read, to do nothing, but to have time for you. Because if not, after that, you begin like, oh my gosh, I regret so much because I worked so hard. I didn't see my family. I didn't see my kids growing. So I regret. We don't need to live with regrets. We can design a different future for us. And our life matters the same that our professional career matters. There's a balance in between what I do in different stages and phases and seasons of life. But to have a space for ourselves and what do we care about, it's really very important.
It sounds like you help people define those things. Like you mentioned, what are the 5 most important outcomes they needed in work? Do you do that with them in their personal life as well?
Yeah, and I do ask a question that I love. And the question is, are you satisfied, fulfilled with the life that you have now? And if the answer is no, is what are you waiting for? Because there is a default future. You see your agenda this morning and you know how is unfolding your day, but not necessarily is the future that you want for you.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. It is how you spend your day is how your life's going to be. I've heard it said that way. You've done this for a couple of decades, so you've worked with some really high performers, some high achievers. So let's say you're working with someone who's at the top of their game in terms of productivity, in terms of that external success at work and career, and they come to you and they say, I've got all of this handled, but I'm not happy. And I can go to work and I can achieve and I can get results and I can almost do that with my eyes closed, but I go home and I'm just empty. How do you start working with someone who's had that experience?
The best way, James, is to talk and to explore your own passions, hobbies, what matters to you, what do you like? That must be an amazing conversation, right? And it's not, because they are not in touch with what they want and what the passions are. So it's crazy to look at them and they are like, gosh, I don't know, so much time that I don't think about that. Okay, so I began to explore, do you like golf? Do you like a beer with friends? Do you like movies, theater? Do you like holidays? Do you like something that you did in the past that you don't do in the present? And there's a hobby there. Do you like chess? What do you like? And if you can see yourself doing something different from what you are doing now. So it's like put yourself in the future. For myself, if I'm not going to be a coach in the future, gosh, I will love a jewelry business or maybe a vineyard. I don't know anything, but I love to drink wine.
Right.
So there are 2 things that I like in life. This is not a definite answer. So let's explore future. It's very important because sometimes they don't explore, and when they finish their career or they are retired or the company decide that they are not going to be part of the company, they get down.
Right.
They don't have anything else.
And they made that their identity.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that when you do have that, if you've got someone who's been in that role of achieving for so long and they've been great at work, but they've made that their life, their identity, and then you ask them that question, well, what do you love to do? And they have no answer because they've just filled all of their time with work. Then you really ask them to explore, and then maybe they can come up with, well, I love to hike, or I've always wanted to climb a mountain, or they start to feel a little bit hopeful that there's something besides spreadsheets or whatever it is they do.
Yeah.
I would imagine that's when the fear creeps in of, oh my gosh, well, if I give 10% of my time or my life over to this thing, well, now am I only going to be 90 or 80% successful at what's really important to them, which is their job or their career or their role? I guess it comes down to identity. So it sounds like you have to take the conversation in a direction that helps shift their mindset into creating a different identity. Like they are not just a work robot anymore. They are a whole person, and they need to start thinking about that a little bit more.
Yeah. I love how you put it. You said 10%. And I love to think that we can move a little bit. Not to stay where we are, because if you are going to stay where we are, and Einstein has this amazing quote that you don't need to expect changes if you don't change. So if you don't move, you are going to get the same results. But if you move at 10%, a little bit, on a weekend, an hour in the day, choose which day in the week, move a little bit into a passion. There's a song that says, see you in the middle. So look in the middle and the possibilities are there. You are not going to play golf the whole day, the whole week. No, once a week.
Right.
Once in the weekend. I do have a client, a top client, and I said, you are really near to retirement and you talk only about work. So what is happening here? And he said, my work is my life. Are you realizing what you are saying? Because if your job is your life, when you are not going to have this job, what's going to happen with your life? So you need to move a little bit. I understand your responsibilities. I cannot imagine the big challenges you are facing, but you need to move 10%, as you said, Jay.
I guess it leads into the next question, because this podcast is all about change. And it sounds like once someone has recognized their part in their own lack of either success or fulfillment, whichever category that might be, it sounds like they need to create some change, but not jump in with both feet, just create a little bit of change. What is your advice for people who maybe they see one of their blocks, something that's holding them back, either in their family life or in their work life, and they think, if I could just overcome this one thing, and that's dangerous in itself. That's also what this podcast is about. It's not any one thing typically. It's just how everything meshes together in your work and your life. But sometimes there is a specific thing. Like you said, for you many years ago, it was exercise. So you wanted to get yourself more motivated to do the exercise. So you did what a lot of people advise: don't try to get motivated. You just went out and you exercised, and then you got motivated afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
When it comes to someone who's maybe thinking, okay, this is a part of my life I really want to change, I've been sabotaging myself about it, what's your advice to them on how to get started?
Everything is go big and act small. Small, tiny steps, but every day. A little step. I do have this client that in pandemic, everything changes for everybody. But for her, it was like she received family at home. So she forget about good food and exercise and everything and pandemic times. And it was so complex to handle that when pandemic finished, she was overweight, without physical condition, so overwhelmed about her personal situation. And she said, I need to do everything. So I'm going to sign up for the gym and zero carbs from tomorrow. And I said, hold yourself a little bit.
Right.
Don't rush into the solution, because that is not the solution. Tell me, what kind of equipment do you have at home? And she said, I do have a treadmill. I use it for the towels, because people that is not accustomed to exercise,
It's the best use for a treadmill,
put the
right?
towels. Yeah. I said, okay, can you go for 5 minutes in the treadmill? And she said, Hilda, 5 minutes, it's nothing. Okay, It's nothing. Can you do that? Yeah, I can do every day. No, don't go for every day. How many days are you committed really to do that? 3 at least. Okay, 5 minutes, okay? This is the commitment. If you want to stay more, I don't care. 5 minutes is your commitment. Is that okay? Yeah. 3 times a week? Yeah. So she began like that. And suddenly she forget about the 5 minutes and stood there more. And she began a little bit more than 3 days. And now she exercises. And it's a way of doing small, tiny things often to keep you moving. So it's crazy because in 5 minutes you are not getting physical condition and maybe you are not going to be thin and throw away the pounds that you don't want.
Right.
No, it's the beginning of a sustained practice. And that's the best secret. Small, tiny thing with enough reps that will stick in the long run.
And you know what is interesting? You just described a good habit, but you also gave us a really good idea for identifying maybe in our lives, what are the bad habits? What are the sustained little things that we do every day that maybe work against where we want to go in our lives? As soon as you said that, I could think, oh gosh, I do this every day, and that's probably not getting me any closer to my goal. I avoid that every day, and that's definitely not getting me any closer to my goal. So as you just put it that way, I can imagine someone out there listening to this conversation thinking, oh, wow, if I just wrote a list of all the things I do every day, they could probably put a check mark against the ones that are getting them closer to where they want to be and an X next to the ones that they don't. And then they would figure out the roadmap.
Yeah, that sounds a powerful exercise. I will do it by myself.
It's probably not that simple, but when I just quantified it like that and I thought, okay, let's list out a typical day. I do the journaling practice. I do meditation about every other day, try to be mindful. But there are other things I do that maybe I read a little too late into the night. Maybe I take the book to bed with me, which everybody tells you, don't do that. Don't watch TV in bed. Don't have the computer in bed. So there are other things. If I listed those out, I could really see where things are headed. So thank you for that.
Thank you for that, because everything is about awareness. But awareness creates choice. If you can see something, you can change something. If you don't see it, you cannot make any effort to change it. So the exercise is awareness. When I was writing, I decided to do a calendar and to mark the day that I wrote. And when I saw February last year, it was like, what? I wrote 4 days in the whole month?
Oh, wow.
That is so bad. So with that awareness, I decide to be different in March. And March looks better, like 7 days without writing, but the other 23 I was writing,
right.
And April looks better than that. So it's awareness.
Right.
To be conscious of what am I doing and if that is going to take me to the place that I want to be.
That's the quote of the year right there. You can't have change without awareness. And that's powerful. That's what we're all about here, is trying to create awareness within ourselves. It's not necessarily about anyone else but ourselves, because we're the only ones we can have any control over is what we do next. I'm curious, when you have these conversations with executives and the people that you've coached for so long, do you find that you're seeing different ways that people self-sabotage their success, their happiness? Is it different in men versus women? Is it different in younger people versus people who have had some experience in life? How are those conversations different?
Wow, that is a great question. Trying to have some ideas in my mind to answer. Of course, we are different generations. And I think younger people, that they are so fresh and excited about life and especially balance, they have a lot to teach us. But we have a lot to teach them because they constantly sabotage themselves because they want to move and to go fast in their career. So they leave companies behind as fast as you cannot imagine, less than a year, and they are in another role, another job, another company, another. So it's so fast. And I do have a client like this, and I said, hold your horses a little bit and realize if you need to move so fast because you are losing opportunities in the same company. Because it's another company. I get bored. I need to move.
Right.
I need a new challenge. So young people are different of older people. And women, we have another struggles like balance with home and kids and partners. So we need to balance so many things that we get in our way, trying to be perfect in everything. And super committed in my job and super committed in my life and everything perfect. So at night, I'm drained out totally.
Yeah.
So in between women and men, there are also differences.
You mentioned perfectionism. I don't know what the word is.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm a perfectionist, and
But,
it is definitely, that has held me back a lot in my career, in my life, and a lot of things I can see. If I just went for it and didn't worry about the right time, the right level of research and all the things, just went for it, it might not look the way I wanted it to. And this podcast has really stretched me in that sense, because there are a lot of times where maybe I have to put out an episode where I didn't love the sound quality as much, or where I thought, gosh, I could have asked that question 10 different ways. Should I go back and re-record myself asking that question? And I could have, but I made myself just stop, put the microphone down, walk away, hit publish, and feel good about it, because I did my best and I learned from it. But it almost feels like playing God to go back and recreate it so it's perfect. And it is completely unnecessary, because, as I've discovered, 9.5 times out of 10, no one noticed.
It's only you and your level of self-demand.
Right.
Yeah. Can I share a reflection with you?
Yes.
I do learn because I'm this kind of perfectionist that like and love everything perfect, ready, professional, nice, clean, in place. And I do learn a technique that I love. And it's from the 100% of something. What is the 20? The 20, not the 100, that needs for me to be perfect.
Okay.
For example, home. My home is cleaning by a lady once a week. And there's no one that is going to make awful my home during the week.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know to clean the other days the 100% of the house, because I use my office, my bedroom, my bathroom, and the kitchen. I don't use the other 2 rooms.
Mm-hmm.
No one uses the living room. So what is the 20% that needs to be as I like? Okay, my room, my bathroom, my office, and the kitchen.
Mm.
And I don't touch the other stuff the whole week until the cleaning lady comes. So what is the 20% that needs to be in the podcast?
Yeah.
Is introduction, is the ending, what needs to be perfect. And in the between is the best I could.
That's powerful.
So 20, not 100.
It seems like the theme as we're talking are manageable, bite-sized efforts, and not feeling the weight of taking on everything and feeling like you have to. Yeah, because it does create craziness. It creates overwhelm. We've talked about procrastination a little bit. We've talked about perfectionism, which, tell me what your opinion is, but I think perfectionism is really the reason for procrastination quite often.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes. What are some other roadblocks that you see in people, like procrastination, perfectionism, that people use to keep themselves from being successful?
Intensity.
Oh.
I do realize that is an adrenaline of speed, intensity, everything all together and fast. and results and this meeting and go for a next one and the next is coming. So this craziness.
Okay.
And I know when I'm doing that because I walk fast when I'm not in a hurry. I talk fast. I eat fast. I'm in this kind of anxiety to do a lot of stuff.
Okay.
I'm with not much control. So adrenaline is one of it. More challenges, more problems.
Right.
Bring me on because I'm in shape to solve it.
I can relate to that one too. I've always said I'm more of a sprinter than a marathoner.
Yeah, and this is a marathon.
Right. So I just need to calm down. Because I sometimes I will let something go and then attack it with the intensity, get it done, and it's off my plate, and then I can move on to something else. When in reality, do that 20%, a little bit at a time, like you said, and make sure it stays consistent.
Yeah, and the best way of not getting drained or so drained at night is to differentiate in between what needs my complete focus and energy and to be really aware on this problem and what doesn't. So we apply the same energy to everything in life. No need.
Because I've got the kind of job where I'm sitting in front of a computer quite a bit, it does get monotonous. And when it gets monotonous, sometimes I do get distracted. And so I just need a brain break. And one of the things I started doing probably about 2 years ago to help me is I set a timer for 45 minutes and I work very focused. Don't have the email up, don't have anything to look at really. And then as soon as that timer hits, even if I'm in the middle of a word typing an email, I just get up and I set the timer for 15 minutes and I might go get a drink, but I also might go load the dishwasher or unload the dishwasher or fold some clothes, do something where my body's moving. That is pretty boring and just lets me diffuse whatever focus I had a little earlier. Is that a good way to, like you said, the differentiation? Is that what you were talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there is a technique, the Pomodoro technique, that uses the time like you are using. 25 minutes of totally focus, doing what you are going to accomplish, and 5 minutes of going for coffee, answering your WhatsApp, going to the bathroom, going for a walk. 5 minutes, and you come back and again focus. After that, 5 minutes of relaxation, whatever it serves you.
Right.
So this is a great way of doing that. And I use very much the app to focus this 25 minutes and 5 rest. And if 25 it was short, I ask to skip the break. And after 50 minutes, it allowed me to break for 15.
Okay.
So it is super useful.
I know for myself, I'm just going on personal experience, and I would love for anyone who's listening to this right now to talk about some of the things that maybe they see in themselves, put it in the comments, that kind of thing that either takes them away from the life they want or just distracts from it. But I'd love to talk about distractions because distractions are everywhere now. I put my phone not in the other room. I'm not quite to that level yet, but I put it across the room. It's on a charger. I can see it over there, but I can't get to it without taking my headphones off and doing all the things. So it is sort of out of mind. But do you have any advice for people if they do find themselves checking their phone a lot or being distracted about, like I've taken all of the noises off of my phone, off of my computer. I have no notifications popping up, and that's just what I need to stay focused. In your work with executives, do you have some general advice if they do find themselves just being interrupted by technology?
Or themselves.
That's right.
Yeah, the stats are shocking. 47% of our time, our mind wanders.
47%.
The half of our day, we are in a meeting and thinking about, the groceries, the maid, the kids, the email, I didn't call, I supposed to, the project. And I'm in the meeting with 3-4 layers of different thoughts. So I'm not present. I'm distracted. worse if we have technology in our hands, because I'm looking at my phone and my computer and reviewing mails while I'm in the conversation, and I'm not present.
Mm-hmm.
So the best way when we get lost is to be aware, to observe ourselves, and to see that with one deep breath, you can refocus again. With only one. You don't need a 5 minutes breathing practice. No, a very propositive breath, deep one.
Very intentional, deep breath.
Very intentional, and my mind goes back again. So if I'm losing again, one breathing. If you can leave your phone outside the meeting rooms, in the drawer, outside your room at home.
That's huge. That's something I am learning.
Bad habit.
It's such a bad habit. And
Yeah,
it's such an easy habit to fall into. But again, that's one of those things that if it was on a list, you would have to have a lot of awareness to put that on the list. Like I've checked my phone 4 times in the last 30 minutes. If you're not aware of it, you can't put it on the list and you can't change that behavior. So that's a really good eye-opener to look at yourself, look at your day really differently. And thank you so much for some of those ways that we can look at ourselves. We can hope to understand some of the ways we are limiting our own success, our own fulfillment in life, because that's what this show is all about, is getting the most out of life that you possibly can. And I would love to know if someone wants to, if they're listening right now and they want to connect with you and they want to get a little more insight into some of the ways that you can help them have the kind of life they really want, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Thank you very much, James. There are different ways. The most powerful is to go to my website, hildafainsod.com, my name altogether.com. There is a space for contact me or to go to grab a date, an initial conversation. And if they want to know more and are committed to improve themselves and to be better and stronger, to remove all the blockers and to achieve success, go and grab your copy, Power Up, the Executive Roadmap to Transforming Life and Business, is on Amazon in the Kindle version, in the book, hardcover, everything.
Yeah, I just got my own copy.
Thank you very much. We have more than 348 days in this year to achieve more, to get more of our life. So this is a way to understanding how to overcome and achieve.
Excellent. That is such a good thing. And it's so powerful for people to hear your message, what you have to say. And you've got a lot of successful clients in the many years you've been doing this who can attest to how life-changing it is when they can bring in someone who can help them, because so many things we can do once we know how to do it. Sometimes we don't know what to do. And if you can help and it improves their life, that's huge. And if someone reads your book and that leads them to more questions and more awareness of themselves, their situation, their lives are going to improve. So thank you for doing what you do. You have helped people for over 20 years now.
And committed and going strong for more.
I hope you do. And I really appreciate your time.
I love this conversation. It flows so naturally. It's like having a coffee with a friend. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you so much for joining me today. And be sure to come back next week. Oh, and can I ask a favor? I love connecting with people who have either led their own joyful rebellion or professionals who help others through that journey. So if you know someone like that, there's a big yellow button on the homepage at ajoyfulrebellion.com. I'd really appreciate you reaching out with a suggestion or introduction. Thanks again, and I'll see you back here next week.